Hello and welcome to Lesson 12 of Carry the Fire Foundations. Over the last few lessons, we've been digging into how the human mind actually works. We've emphasized cognitive biases, and we've been building on a difficult but essential realization. Human beings are incredibly good at rationalizing whatever we already want to do or want to believe. Ask almost anyone, and they're going to tell you that they're a good person. And they're going to have a justification for almost every questionable thing that they've done. Why they act the way they act, why they avoid certain things, why the hard things can wait, why now isn't the right time, why the comfortable choice makes sense. They might even have a rationalization for why they told you they want to do something yesterday and today they're not doing it. Most people are living inside stories that protect them from discomfort and prevent them from growth. This problem is deeply rooted in how the mind works. You've probably noticed that you are very good at knowing what other people should do. You can see the patterns that sabotage your friends. You can spot their excuses, their avoidance, their self-deception. From the outside, other people's flaws and their solutions seem obvious. But when it comes to your own life, the right path can be much less clear. We can see when other people's elephants get unruly far more clearly than when our own get out of line. Our writer is excellent at judging someone else's impulses, but deeply compromised when it comes to managing our own. So remember, your mind is not neutral. It's on your side. It is your defense attorney. That's exactly why learning how your mind works is not optional. It's foundational, which is why Know Thyself was inscribed at the temple of Apollo at Delphi, where ancient Greeks came when in search of guidance and wisdom. The maxim, know thyself, was and still is the foundation of wisdom. Having established that foundation, we started talking about ideals in Lesson 11. And I said that ideals are simply the values you decide are worth the cost. Today we're going to focus more on what exactly those values are. But let's first define our terms. Ideals are what you admire and you aspire towards. They're the standards that call you up. Virtues are the traits you train, things like discipline, courage, honesty, toughness. Values are what actually wins when you have to choose. Your values are not what you put on a poster. Values are what show up in real life. And I'll show you what I mean with a question. All things being equal, would you rather be healthy or unhealthy? If there's just a button you could press to automatically be healthy and another one you can press to automatically be unhealthy, which button are you going to choose? This isn't even a real question. Healthy people are stronger, sharper, more resilient. They sleep better, think more clearly, and live longer. They get sick less often and recover more quickly. They're more confident, more capable, and more alive. They have better relationships and show up better for the people they love. Given the choice, every person you know would rather be healthy. This isn't even a question. But if that's true, why isn't everyone healthy? When we talk about values, we're talking about the priorities and preferences that dictate our actual real-world choices. So you may say you value health. All people would prefer to be healthy than not healthy, so in some sense, we all do value health. Most people value health right up until it competes with another value, right up until it competes with comfort, or convenience, or pleasure, or wanting to do what everyone else is doing. That social conformity bias pulls at us hard. So when we talk about values, we are really exploring our truest selves and the things that actually drive our behavior. We're trying to find out what things really drive our actions. That's what makes values hard. Your real values are not what you say. They are what you do, especially when there's tension between two different things that you want. Values are revealed by choices. Clarifying your ideal values won't eliminate hard choices, but it will tell you which choice is worth making. When your values are clear and thoughtful, choices simplify. Commitment becomes possible. Actions feel aligned instead of forced. And here's the key idea for today. You won't discover your values by thinking harder. You discover them by paying attention to the choices that you're already making. Because your values are a decision hierarchy. What matters most wins when you're forced to choose between two things that you want. For example, if you have a test tomorrow and you've prepared well and you're tired, getting to bed on time is probably pretty easy. It's easy to value academics and getting enough sleep when nothing is going on. But if there's a big social event and your group is going and the girl you like wants you there, now you're in the real arena. Now you have competing values. All right, it's discipline versus status and belonging. Ambition versus comfort, approval, and attraction. That conflict, those competing values, It's one of the biggest sources of stress in modern life. And this isn't because you're weak, it's because you're human. Same thing with training. Say you really want to get stronger, faster, and more skilled. You are training and you want to be the best you can be for your sport. You know you need 8 hours of sleep. You know you should lay out your meals for the next day so you can get to school and thrive. But you also feel a lot of pressure to keep up with your friends on social media. Plus there's this girl you kind of like who you've been messaging. You know managing your social platforms at night makes it hard for you to wind down and get to sleep. You know having your phone by your bed is bad for your sleep. But you also fear missing out or just don't want to. You want connection. You want to be in the loop. These are competing values. So here's the point. When you evaluate your choices, you can see what values are winning out when it really matters. Those choices are the critical moments, the inflection points that over time will define your life. What you want to do is reflect and observe patterns in your choices. Maybe you really want to be present for the people that matter most, and that means you want to have more face-to-face interactions with your best friends. However, you also find that you're constantly drifting into social media and video games. Usually the problem isn't a lack of want to, right? It's a lack of reflection, it's a lack of intentionality, and then it's a lack of planning. You've probably heard the phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This is kind of what that quote is getting at. The combination of a lack of intentionality, plus our tendency to rationalize our choices, leads many people far from where they want to be. So the fix is to take time to stop and reflect on your life from time to time. You can take some time and look at those critical moments. What values are winning at the times where you wish they weren't winning? Look closely and be honest with yourself. Know thyself. Noticing your behavioral patterns is what gives you power. Now you can use what you've learned about habits and environmental design in previous lessons, as well as the ideals you've been clarifying. You put that all together and you have the tools to change how you respond in the critical moments. And this is how you rewire your values. It's how you stop being managed by impulse, mood, and social pressure, and instead take control of your life and who you want to be. Now I should also mention that some values are just personal preferences. All right, some values they're fine, they're just who you are and you have to accept that. And these are important things to notice and learn about yourself, but not to change as much as to honor. For example, I love to be creative and to get into deep work. Work situations where people are coming by to talk all the time drive me nuts. But other people thrive on that. They love working in places where people come by just to talk or where they're reacting to other people's problems throughout the day. That energizes them. So these are just personal preferences. They're part of our personality. There's a lot more to say about values, but rather than talk about this for another 5 minutes, I think your time is best spent doing the work. You're going to do a values exercise where you identify what's actually been driving your behavior. Then you're going to decide what should drive you. Not perfectly, not overnight, but deliberately. Remember, if you don't choose your values, you don't become value neutral. You become a product of what is loudest, what is easiest, whatever is trending, whatever gets approval. Whatever numbs stress the fastest, whatever is the flow of life. You become usable, a passenger driven by other people's plans. And that is how you wake up 5 years from now with a life you didn't mean to build. So today isn't about guilt, all right? It's about honesty, but it's about empowering you. Let's get into the exercise. Carry the fire.